Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being your show, we're talking about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Manifest. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we had the whole situation with both Ben and TJ having callings. Because at first, it's been a couple months since the last episode, and so the fact of the matter is they're still dealing with the fact that Cal saw those shadows and everything, and Ben's stressing out trying to figure out like what it all means in the grand scheme of things. They never really explained it, and I assume there was nothing to it, but I guess because Grace isn't pregnant anymore, she's not having any more callings, it doesn't seem like that's the case. You would almost, it makes you wonder, is that, could their baby, Eden, could she be having callings that maybe she just can't get? I don't know if that's something, maybe they're waiting until an appropriate age, like when she's kind of around Cal's age or something, to kind of originally make that a thing to happen. I don't know. We'll kind of have to wait and see if there ends up becoming anything more from that. But the fact is, for Ben, he's kind of thinking about what Adrian said, because for him it's like, yeah, at first he didn't want to believe that, like he wanted to wholeheartedly believe the callings, but now with these whole shadow things, now he's wondering maybe that is the case, like, and he has a calling about a train. TJ, when he's out with Cal, which I thought was kind of neat, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot Cal was suggesting they do something as a family, and like TJ was like, whoa, you think of me as a family? He's like, yeah, I guess so. And I was like, oh, that's super adorable. I was like, well, to be fair, you are dating his older twin sister, so it does bring you part of the family, which, because obviously TJ doesn't have any family left, after his mom, and now he ends up being a part of this one. So I thought that was kind of neat. But he has a calling, and so does TJ. And at first, they're kind of thinking maybe this ties into the three shadows that Cal saw. But essentially, they were able to track it down to like a Phoenix was like a motif drawn on like in a subway, and obviously the train and everything puts it together as like a subway station. They meet this old guy who was about to kill himself, but luckily TJ and Ben were able to stop him. So now the whole situation becomes like, well, trying to understand who he is and why he tried to do what he did, And I didn't think about this until TJ brings up later on, because the old man was like, you shouldn't have done that. Like, why'd you save me? And TJ was like, don't say like we shouldn't have saved you. He's like, because for him, it's like, his mom died. He's like, she killed herself. I would give anything to be able to see her one more time. And it's like, right. So we kind of see Ben as being the guy who tries to kind of mitigate and try to help with these callings and stuff like that. And TJ, this is a very personal story for him because he lost a parent to suicide. So, we'll kind of circle back to that. But at the same time, you have Zeke still going through his treatments and stuff like that. And, Sanvi is trying to do everything she can to try and mitigate his like deterioration of his body and stuff like that, but it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. And obviously the entire time she's still modifying her cure, because yeah, it worked, but obviously it still has its issues and stuff like that. So she's still trying to work out the kinks and stuff like that, trying to stop all the kind of the negative side effects to it, because it's like, because obviously for Zeke it's kind of like the situation of it's not fair, like he's literally at the end of his life and he wants to spend that time with Michaela, but now it's just kind of like this kind of gets in the way. He found his one true love, and he was even at his meetings, because he talked about the fact it's like the year anniversary, it's a not year anniversary but the anniversary of his sister's death, which is also the sponsor at the meeting was also like, yeah, but it's also like probably the anniversary of you using, kind of like almost like an anniversary of your sobriety, of like, look where you are now. And for him it's like, because it's basically like, for him it's like, Zeke is like, I know I'm going to die soon, and it's just kind of, it is kind of a thing of like, it's hard to kind of keep up the sobriety, considering it's kind of, what's the point, I'm as good as dead. But it's like, you spent so much time, asking people for forgiveness. The question then becomes, who do you want to forgive, so that you can, at least have peace of mind. And that kind of got him. Immediately my brain was like, I would assume that would have to do it, like if he had to forgive anyone, it would be his dad, because his dad kind of bailed on them and everything. Interesting how it didn't correlate in my head that this story was circle back like that, because obviously it's like a lot of interesting things in a sense of the fact is that Zeke had that moment with his mom and everything. I thought was really sweet, because it's the anniversary of his sister's death and everything, and she's like, she's like trying to, like, obviously he's not telling her everything, and she's like, okay. He's like, I get it, I've lied to you in the past, so of course you doubt me. She's like, no, just like, you're all I have in this world, and I just love you so much, and then it's kind of sad because it's like, because he doesn't want to tell his mom the truth, because it's like he's gonna wait till his deathbed, because he's like, why put all that weight and pressure on her, especially considering like he's all that she has left. Like, he doesn't want to take that away from, especially on the day that they're like, mourning his sister and everything. So it's like, it just felt like it would have been too much. And obviously for Sanvi, it's all about, because this isn't, this is about saving Zeke's life and also saving all their lives. It's like, for her, like, because even Zeke was like, Arzura was talking about that whole thing about like, turning against the callings, only leads to destruction. But for her, she believes in science and everything. And she's like, there's been so many advancements in modern medicine that we can cure so many things. So she thinks we can cure this too. So she wants to believe in the science rather than kind of like the callings and stuff like that, which is very befitting considering the fact that she's cut her ties with the callings because of her testing her cure on herself. So we never actually got the specifics of whether she was still testing it on herself. I'm assuming she's not, because she knows, like, I can't do that. I can't do any good to you guys if I'm not in the right state of mind, so no more testing on myself. I'm assuming that's what that's about, but we'll see. But the interesting turn of events is when, Grace ends up humming that song, and it turns out Zeke knows it too. And it's like, oh, it's like my dad made it. It's like, oh, was he a writer or something? It's like, no, it's just a song he sung me and my sister. I was like, wait. And it's like the guy upstairs that tried to kill himself is Zeke's dad. And because Zeke hasn't seen his dad since he walked out of their lives. And obviously Zeke has a hard time dealing with this because he's like, no. Like, because, even Cal's like, oh, don't you want to go see your dad? He's like, yeah, but my dad's not like you, isn't a good guy like your dad is, Cal. And Ben's like, you should take this chance. But for Zeke, it's like, this man walked out of our lives after my sister died and kind of blamed me for her death. And it's like, for him, he's been like, because what his dad did, it's one thing to kind of deal with like his sister's death and blaming himself, but it's also a byproduct of his dad blaming him and disappearing. And like, he even talked about it, his mom turned inwards and he turned to drugs because of all of it. So it's like, it's all kind of feeding itself. Like his drug use and addiction was a byproduct of all of that, And so you could tell he resents his dad a little bit because it's like, you left us. I had no one to turn to. Rather than, because it's like, Ben's like, I get it. But he's like, nah, Ben, you're nothing like my dad. Because one of your kids fall, you pick them up. You don't blame them and just bounce. And obviously that's why Zeke holds so much resentment. I mean, to be fair, he's resented his dad for so many years. And it's there. And now we also understand why his father wanted to kill himself, because he felt so guilty. Because I think for him, it's like, he felt like probably so much time. It's sad. It's one of those human things of us where we feel like so much time has passed. It's like, there's no way we can fix what we broke. So why even try? Because it's like, there's no amount of words that can fix anything. So it's like, he just felt such regret for that. He felt like the only thing he can do was do that to kind of end his misery and everything like that. But Zeke actually comes to see him, and we never actually get the insights to that conversation, but it's like, because even Ben had told him, this isn't about him, this is about you, so that you can forgive him, have some peace of mind. And then Zeke thinks about what he had heard earlier in his meeting about that whole situation, so it kind of came full circle for him. So, but sadly, a byproduct of this is that Zeke tells Michaela he's not going to continue the treatment because he's not going to spend the last amount of time he has left. Because once again, we're skipping maybe a month or two. So like, Zeke has even less time left. He already had only a year, but now he has even less time. And now it's a situation of, Michaela's like, no, you can't give up. Which he's like, I'm not giving up. Like, the fact is, if we can find a cure and I'm still alive, then I'll gladly take it. But for him, it's like, I'm not going to waste any more time that I have here, not just spending it with you, like being stuck in a hospital, hooked up to a machine like that. I won't be living my life. I might not have a lot of time, but I want to live that life to the fullest. I want to live it beside you, not just, wasting away here, for something. Because even right now, Sambi's talking about the fact that she can't do anything to kind of alleviate his problem, because his stuff is already starting to break down, so it's proceeding further. There's no slowing down the process. So rather than wasting that time on something that's not going to work, it's rather spend his time with Michaela. Which, the whole situation with Michaela, for her, at the beginning of the episode, after the whole situation with Ben, she was praying to the calling, or like whoever or whatever it is that gives them this power, and it's like kind of give me a sign that I'm putting my faith in you. And so she gets a calling about some kid who was stealing like a candy bar, but let him go. But it turns out the kid was stealing cold flu medicine, which is used for meth. If Breaking Bad taught us anything, which I don't mean to use that in a negative connotation, that Breaking Bad wasn't teaching you how to make meth. It just lets you know, oh, cold flu stuff like that being taken, oh, that's most likely someone using it for meth. Regardless of all that, the fact is that when it's all said and done, though, she kind of brings Jared into the fold, because it's like, yeah, my calling said to let him go. And Jared's like, all right, I'll help you with the investigation. Not unless you want to explain to Drea, but Drea's like, wait, now you're all cool and everything now? She's like, yeah, it's fine and everything. We're friends. And it's like, all right, Vasquez, this is a loner. Like, obviously I'm loaning my partner out to you, so. But obviously they start looking into it, trying to track down the kid, because they end up finding out it's a bigger operation, because other bodegas and places have been hit having like the same stuff stolen. So it seems like this isn't just a kid, there's a larger scale operation. And when they do find the kid, they find out like he never actually meets the person he's dropping this off to. It's just like they leave it on a bus and everything. Someone eventually gets in and kind of like, so like the thieves and the top dog in this whole operation never meet face to face, the way the kids are always unaware of who they're working for. So obviously, like, you have Drea kind of like joking about the whole situation of like, oh, so what's this all about? It's like, no, we're just friends. Oh, I mean, would you consider Jared just a friend, considering the fact is he went undercover into a deadly cult just to protect you and stuff like that? And it's like, she's like, no, we're just friends. But basically her joke was about like, I mean, hell, even look at that haircut he got for you, so there's that. But that turns into an element, because obviously it's like Jared's being super nice. He's bringing her favorite sandwiches, stuff like that. She's like, Jared, I love Zeke. I'm in love with Zeke, and there would never kind of be in us. And he's like, you kind of got this twisted, Michaela. It's like, I've accepted the fact is that you and Zeke are together. The fact of the matter is, I don't want you not in my life. Like, the fact is, I can live with us not being together, but I can't live with you not being a part of my life, because you've been a part of my life for so long. So not having you in it, it's just not something for him. So I was like, I want us to be friends again. And she's like, that's what I want to. And I'm like, oh, it's like, yeah. Which obviously, I respect that, because I've never had luck keeping an ex as a friend. It kind of blew up in my face. To be fair, I was a teenager, but it was more stuff on my side. Like, I shouldn't have done it. It's a whole emotional baggage situation. I've actually talked about it before, but I won't get into it in this. But it ties into it, because I'm like, oh, exes still being friends and stuff like that. That's neat. But I even liked him being like, the fact of the matter is, he's like, yeah, because I'm even coming to like Zeke. Is that, wait, Zeke doesn't like me? Yeah, I should have figured as much. But then she drops the bomb on him about Zeke dying. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like, you never told him about the death day. To be fair, at the time she found out about it, her and Jared weren't in the best spot. He did shoot her. Well, because of the whole gun situation going off and wanting to arrest Zeke. So they weren't in the best place. And now she's informing him about everything. It's like, right, not only does Zeke have a limited amount of time, we are going to die. And it's like, and obviously for Jared, it's like, whoa, what do you mean? Because even Jared brought up something interesting earlier in the episode. He's like, why do you so wholeheartedly follow the callings? It's like you always kind of justify them like, oh, there's got to be a reason behind it, this and that. Because now Michaela's thinking like, let him go. Maybe it had nothing to do with the kid. Maybe it had to deal with Zeke kind of letting him go. It's just kind of accepting, like, because the fact is Zeke wasn't also preparing himself. He's preparing Michaela for like, you got to be ready to lose me when the time comes in case this whole thing doesn't work. Like, you got to, like, we can hope and pray that things work out, but you got to be, open to the thought that, you got to be prepared enough for if this doesn't work out the way we want it to, type of situation. So there's that whole side of things, and it's just kind of like, that's a lot kind of getting dropped on Jared all at once. Luckily they were able to go in there and they stopped everyone that was involved, including the bus driver, but also the guy they were after, what's his name, Jace. He was the main operator behind this. He got out of prison 4 months ago, and it turns out that's around the time the robbery started. But then there's a whole situation where Michaela was about to arrest him. He's like, oh, you need to let me go. And she's like, I don't think so. But he's like, if you're making a huge mistake, I'm going to bring down, basically like some holy judgment is going to come down on you. And even then the calling kept being like, let him go, let him go, let him go. And I'm like, what the hell is this all about? And part of me was like, he's not a passenger, is he? I mean, Ben wouldn't have seen his. I mean, because I feel like Michaela would have seen his face. But to be fair, Ben has most of the board memorized. But maybe Michaela does too. But I feel like maybe he has something to do with it. Probably not. But then we, at the end, it's like for Michaela, it's a situation of like, it all kind of worked out in the end. Like they arrested. But like for her, it's like this is the first time she straight up disobeyed a calling. So it's like, what's going to be the price for that? Once again, the path of ignoring the callings is destruction. So there's a whole situation at the very end where we see Cal, he sees the three shadows and everything, and then we get revealed the three men that were arrested were the three shadows. So it's like, so wait, because they kept saying like maybe the three shadows thing was a warning, and I guess that was like a warning of like, because letting Adrian make you think, oh, steer away from the callings, or maybe this was a calling's own way. Because it's interesting because who saw it? Like the only people to see the three shadows is Adrian, I guess someone who had turned away from the callings, but also Calby because he's the centerfold of this. I guess it was warning of like Adrian's like perception kind of like getting in everyone's. I don't know. Because it's so interesting because Michaela has always followed it, but this was asking her to let some criminal go. Now, my immediate thought is, I brought this up a couple episodes ago, like during the storm and everything, and they realized like, oh yeah, like Azura, like the dragon he saw in the sky was their plane. My theory at that time was everything happened in that one storm. That one storm reached across space and time. So the boat, Azura's boat, the plane, Zeke, the criminal dude that drowned, all that happened in the same moment all across space and time. Like that storm was spread across all of history like that. And my thought is that basically these three criminals are the same way. The way he was like, oh, like bringing down like God's wrath or something, like some like divine retribution against Michaela. I was like, you think you're on some holy cause must mean that he's getting some kind of form of callings. So my thought immediately is like, were they brought back by the same storm, or were they brought back by the callings? Are they bad guys that actually served a purpose, much like dude last time, like he stopped the bomb even though he was the bad guy and everything. But it's because, it was a means to an end. He didn't have that long to live type of situation. So I guess it's like, you've proved your usefulness, but now maybe these criminals are proving their usefulness. Maybe it isn't what you think it is. Maybe they weren't making meth. Maybe it was something. I don't know what to make of that. I don't think this ties into the major. I think that's kind of its own. That we still haven't circled back to that since she stole all of Sanvi's research, which at the very end, Sanvi's getting locked out of her lab. So either one of multiple things. One, Alex kind of reported Sanvi for experimenting on herself, or the major is trying to block Sanvi from doing whatever it is that she's trying to do. I'm assuming like someone had to have ratted her out about what she was up to, and it's probably like, oh, she experimented on her. Like Alex could have done it as a means of protecting her, but it could also just been like the major trying to impede her in any shape or form of like, oh, like we can't let there be any counter science out there to like the military project that they're up to. So I mean, hell, this might even tie into the major. Like, that's why I was kind of like, no, but maybe yes. Because once again, the whole point the major's trying to make is like, you make the call, want to be able to control the callings, and maybe this is kind of the first step. I mean, this was like 4 months ago. I mean, obviously, like, we don't know the full scale of this, how much time has passed. Because obviously, there's like every once in a while, you'd be like for this, like, they've talked about the fact this it's been a couple months since last week's episode. So maybe it's kind of the same situation in that regard of maybe that's why that 4 month time happened, because it maybe had something to do with the major. Maybe the same thing happening with Sanvi. I don't know, but I'm curious to see why these three criminals are like, what's that? Maybe they're part of some larger group. Maybe even they're not the head hunters, but it's just interesting, and it's why they're represented, why the callings can't obviously give you a clearer picture, in the grand scheme of things. So. And then obviously, it's kind of ended on a little happier note. Obviously, Zeke's not changing his mind about the medication. But the fact is, once again, he doesn't want to waste any time. So he ends up proposing to Michaela. You're like, yeah, that's good. Let's not. But then you kind of had to put a damper on it. It's like, Well, obviously, doesn't have much time left, but that doesn't mean anything. It's like you enjoy the time you do have. You make the most of it, you know. And even Ben's kind of suggesting doing that now. Like he's spending so much time being obsessed with all of this, he hasn't taken the time since coming back to really live, and he wants to kind of enjoy that, especially now that they have their daughter. So it's like he missed so much of Olive growing up that he doesn't want to miss anymore. Those small moments. I think even when it came to Olive and Cal, like he was probably working so much that he kind of missed those moments. But you know, seeing Eden, I said Edith, Eden's first smile and everything, you know, so stuff like that, I think, you know, it's kind of neat. But the point I was going to make that was slightly depressing, besides Zeke's current predicament, let's not forget Michaela's previous engagement didn't work out well, so you're like, oh, you hope history doesn't repeat itself, but sadly history could have repeated itself because of how little time Zeke had. So that's a whole element to it too. So like, I try to bring it up a little happier, but then I kind of still end on a bummer, so... but nevertheless, I'm very interested to ultimately see where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.